to Earth, the second attempt by M. Night Shyamalan to make a big budget studio movie, and while not as infamous as The Last Airbender, it still got slammed by most people who saw it back in 2013, and now most people barely even remember it. Years in the future, mankind has abandoned Earth and started a space society called Nova Prime, but they're under attack by an alien race that use creatures called Ursas to hunt down humans by sensing their fear. Kitai Rage, played by Jaden Smith, who lost his sister to an Ursa and blames himself for it, is the son of military leader Cypher Rage, played by Will Smith. The two are on a mission when their ship crash lands on Earth, injuring Cypher, and now Kitai must find a way to contact Nova Prime in order to rescue them from the very dangerous Earth. Holy shit, that's a lot of backstory for what is a pretty simple plot. I remember when I first saw this movie, my school was able to show it before it got a home media release. That's also how I saw Pacific Rim, This Is the End, and Man of Steel. But at the time, I thought it was fine. I did buy the Blu-ray and watched it again and found it much more dull on a second viewing, enough that I sold the Blu-ray and wouldn't watch it again until doing this. And rewatching it again, I think I understand why. This movie is just an example of a one and done watch. See it once, it keeps your attention enough, but after that, there's really no reason to watch it again. Let's just get right to it. This is not an M. Night Shyamalan movie, it's Will Smith's. Much like how The Last Airbender had a lot of studio meddling, this clearly was Will Smith's film. He was the actual director and Shyamalan was just there to set up the shots. He was basically a glorified cinematographer. The film was originally supposed to be a simple story about a father and son whose car crashes in the mountains and the son has to rescue the dad, but then Will Smith decided to make it a science fiction movie set thousands of years in the future. Shyamalan did co-write it along with Gary Whitta, who before this did Book of Eli and later co-wrote Rogue One, but it's mostly a Will Smith project for his son. There were plans for this movie. They wanted to make graphic novels and video games, there were books explaining the backstory and world. Like, there was an entire Bible showing how they had to leave Earth, and all for a movie so meh. Like The Last Airbender, Shyamalan also doesn't care for this, but also I don't think it's as bad as people make it seem. But I will say it is probably his most forgettable film. I do think it is a better movie than Last Airbender and Lady in the Water, but it's the only one of his movies, excluding Praying with Anger, I don't own a physical copy of since selling the Blu-ray and probably will never watch it again. Anyway, we haven't really talked about the good and bad in the movie yet. Alright, we'll start with the bad. Jaden Smith is not very good in this movie. He's okay sometimes, and you can tell he's trying, but he cannot carry the movie as much as it wants him to. Not helped are the accents, and I get what it wants to do. This is years in the future. Humans from all nations went on to live together on this planet, so of course this place has its own unique accent, but it feels off. The world feels like it should be much more interesting than it's presented. Nova Prime just looks kinda drab and generic, and then we spend a lot of time on a post-apocalyptic Earth and it's mostly just woods with generic animals. It would have been cool if we could have gone through abandoned cities, basically Jaden's version of I Am Legend. The costumes are boring, the set designs are boring, like not bad, just dull. Even some of the editing is a bit off. I do like some of its themes, like not letting fear control you, and the father-son relationship is pretty well handled. The effects are pretty good, and the action is much better than The Last Airbender. I actually kinda like the crash sequence, some of the animal attacks are pretty fun, and I really like the part where Kitai has to administer first aid on himself. Jaden's performance was actually pretty good there, and it was pretty suspenseful.
I can't see.
The poison is affecting your nervous system. Stay even.
Dad, please come help me. I can't see. I can't do this by myself, Dad. Please come get me.
Kitai, inject yourself directly into your heart with the first stage. Do it now.
I do like the cinematography and the art direction once we get to Earth, and the score is pretty good. And that's really all I have to say. Once we get to Earth, it's mostly a series of set pieces that are okay. Most of the movie is a mixed bag with some good ideas that mostly feel wasted. So yeah, After Earth, isn't very good. It should have just been a simple story about a father and son crashing in the woods on a road trip, but they wanted more ambition. It was hated at the time, getting a Worst Picture nomination. I certainly don't agree with that. Not in the worst movie year of the decade, where movies like Inappropriate Comedy, Die Hard 5, and The Host didn't get nominated. Plus, I have seen a lot of mediocre movies in the era of streaming. This is not nearly the worst you can do. In fact, I would say this is a better version of that Chaos Walking movie. Not like a ton better, but better. I give it a 5.5 out of 10. Maybe I'm being a little lenient, but for me it was just meh. Like I said, Shyamalan wasn't impressed with it either, since he was basically hired to make it look good, but he would use the salary he got from it to fund his next movie. A simple little story that finally, after a decade of rotten rated movies, got him back into the fresh. And we'll talk about that next time. See you then.